15 slides, 20 seconds. So everybody is going to be in this activity, okay? It's not only the presenters. Like in every activity, we need a warm-up. Pecha Kucha is our warm-up. So after they present, you take part, clap your hands. Right, into the first session. First presenter, I hope you are ready. You know your rule, 15, 20. All right, sorry. Let me introduce myself proper. Amelia Turagabeci, Associate Professor Environmental Health, currently acting Dean at the College of Medicine, Nursing and Health Sciences, Fiji National University. That's me. So, first presenter. I think in the program there was supposed to be a change. And is Ibrahim back in the room? Okay, so the program was supposed to be updated. I hope you had followed the online program. So our first presenter then is Puja from the International Institute of Population Sciences, India. Are you ready? Come on, Puja. Yes. The organizers are going to run this, so you'll have to say start so they can roll.
Okay, start. Myself, Puja, and I'm coming from India. Now I am going to present very quite interesting topic and very contemporary issue for the world and also in the developing country. It's a menstruation. It's a menstruation, and now I'm going to mainly focus is how climate change and menstruation is linked way, and especially and actually menstrual hygiene management is negatively impact the menstrual health, and somehow it's limit to the accessibility of water, sanitation, and also menstrual products. And I am focusing on the Sundarban Delta region. It is a well-known biosphere region and also well-known for frequent natural calamities and its effect on the vulnerable and the population there and causing and low cost and displacement. And my rationality of this study, it's a menstrual hygiene management and climate change. And there is no study still now in Sundarban region, and this study explore ethical issue and menstrual health for women displaced by climate disaster. And here this study is conducted for qualitative case study, and I use the purposive sampling, and qualitative data is collected through the in-depth interview, and I have collected data of 20 young adult women who experienced the relief camp during their menstruation. And now is coming to the main ethical issue arising there, and minimizing the risks and obtaining the valid informed consent and working with the vulnerable participant and protecting the participant confidentiality and dealing with the legal implication of the research. Now I'm going to the main key ethical issue arising during the field survey. And during my field survey, some women declined to sign the consent form due to, the menstruation is a cultural issue in the Indian context. And somehow it's risks of the misreporting or underreporting the data. And it is a cultural taboo and the Indian context, so that's why they can't speak more openly about the menstruation, and somehow it's lead to potential and misreportation of the exaggeration of the data. And that is the third point. It's like after a disaster, these women are displaced in any relief camp and also somewhere else, and they stayed with their family in a one room, so that's why they can't spoke about their the intimate part, and so that's why this lack of private space, it's somehow compromising the participant confidentiality. So our study finding is that displaced women, they facing the problem of crisis of safe and clean water there, and also unable to afford the sanitary napkins, and that's why they rely on the menstrual absorbent. And sometimes they forced to use the wet cloths due to inadequacy of the personal space to dry them, and also they are facing the challenges of the clean toilet and lack of private space for changing the materials. And also they are struggling to from the unhygienic management there. So that's why they got the infection and rashes in their vaginal part. And this study suggests that we need to focus the gender-specific intervention in disaster preparedness and relief strategies, and also should highlight the vulnerability, especially of the displaced women, and due to the addressing the climate hygiene, menstrual hygiene, and it's somehow it's right for all women, and should ensure the equitable accessibility of menstrual hygiene management in the climate change region, and it's in terms of the affordability of the menstrual products, and also accessibility of water, sanitation, and also hygiene. And thank you to all for giving me opportunity to present this contemporary issue.
Thank you very much, Puja. That was our first one. Okay, Puja Das, our second presenter. Sorry, Radhisha, you ready? Radhisha Nath, Fiji National University, Fiji.
Start. The ethical and health issues with the role of women in agriculture has evolved significantly, especially in adapting to climate change. My research focuses on Sigatoka and Ba in Fiji, highlighting women's contributions and vulnerability in agriculture and climate adaptation. Climate change threatens agriculture in Fiji, impacting livelihoods. Yeah, it should be automatic. Okay. Yeah. My study identifies these risks and examines the adaptation strategies adopted by women, offering insights for sustainable practices. Women often work long hours, performing hard labor-intensive tasks such as planting, weeding, and harvesting, without mechanized tools. For instance, carrying heavy loads of produce or water over long distances takes a toll on their bodies. These repetitive activities can lead to chronic pain and muscle disorders. Second health challenge is frequent infections and sickness. Women frequently face unsanitary conditions and harsh environmental elements. For instance, untreated irrigation water exposes them to harmful bacteria, and prolonged handling of chemicals without the use of gloves, like fertilizers and pesticides, often cause health risks. Third challenge is limited healthcare access. Due to the distance from local communities, the women are unable to access healthcare facilities in a timely manner. The next challenge is the harsh working conditions. Harsh working environments amplify challenges. Women in extreme weather, heat, or during rainy seasons find it difficult to walk with often proper gear like gloves, hats, or boots. Exposure to dust and strong winds can lead to respiratory issues as well. Ethical challenge of respect for participants. The challenge is ensuring participants felt valued and respected throughout the research process. This involved acknowledging their time and contribution. Next ethical challenge while conducting this project was cultural protocol, the issue of navigating cultural protocols in Fiji, which was tackled by a Yangona Akava ceremony, which is essential in the Itoke context. Information dissemination, the challenge of sharing findings in a way that benefits participants, simply prohibiting or publishing results at enough through workshops or reports in local languages that ensures communities research for the betterment. Next was informed consent. The challenge was obtaining genuine consent from the participants, whereby they should fully understand the purpose, scope, and the risks of the study. Transparency was maintained in the nature of the study. In Itoke language, the native language, to ensure that the participants are aware of their voluntary participation. Another ethical challenge was gender dynamics. The issue was the presence and the intervention of males during the interview that limited the ability to women to speak freely of what they wanted to share, of the view that they wanted to share with the researcher. This was also tackled by providing a safe space, for example, taking a walk into the field. The next ethical challenge that I faced was translation or a translator. A male translator was inappropriate to be employed for interviews to be taken with the female participants. So to avoid this disrespect towards the males in the community, a female translator was employed. Next ethical challenge was participant selection. This was not totally dealt with because the chiefs of the villages were the ones who selected the women, the female participants, and I was unable to select them myself, so I just had to adhere to the rules. The last ethical challenge was potential harm. The challenge is to minimize harm or distress to participants concerning their daily livelihoods in terms of the impacts of climate change that they're facing while being indulged in agricultural activities. This was achieved by addressing delicate questions with caution and empathy. Women are pivotal in agriculture and climate resilience. Empowering them through better resources, healthcare, and ethical research practices is essential for a sustainable future. Thank you.
Thank you, Radhisha. Our next presenter, are you ready? Ready. Okay, so we have Welester Elvis from the University of Malaya, Malaysia.
Thank you. Okay, start. Welcome and thank you for joining me in my presentation today. My name is Welester Elvis and I'm a research fellow for the Global Health Bioethics Network based here in University Malaya. Today I'll share a case study on the ethical dilemmas in health and climate research, which is based on a real case, but some details have been changed to protect privacy. In the lush rainforests of Borneo, indigenous communities rely on rich traditional medicinal knowledge. Even with some access to modern medicine, this knowledge remains central to their health and culture. This picture depicts the Iban communities in Sarawak, a culture I am proud to be a part of. However, climate change has devastating effects for these communities. Rising temperatures, forest fires, and unpredictable weather is threatening their environments, their health, and also having negative impact for their resources. They are losing hunting grounds, fertile soil for their crops, and clean water resources. Enter Dr. Hart, an ethnopharmacologist with a research team from a distant university, who have come to study local medicinal plants and how climate change affects them. As the research begins, tension starts to rise for Dr. Hart and his team. On one side, they face pressure to secure funding, accelerate data collection, and meet tight deadlines, while the community's needs for sustainable solutions, adequate support, and respectful engagement risks being sidelined. For instance, to collect data, Dr. Hart's team set up monitoring devices around medicinal plants. This inadvertently disturbed sacred sites important to the community. The team saw it as a scientific step, but the community felt it was an invasion of their spiritual spaces. Lo and behold, Dr. Hart's research revealed that climate change indeed weakens the potency of local medicinal plants by causing physiological and biochemical changes, disrupting microbial interactions, and reducing secondary metabolite production. After uncovering these findings, the team decided that genetic modification was the best solution and began their work. When communities discovered their plants, they demanded a meeting. Reactions were mixed. Some in the community saw this as a breakthrough, but most feels like it was a violation of natural order. At the end of the meeting, Aman, a local healer, voiced the community's disappointment. We hoped for a partnership, but we became subjects in an experiment. This case highlights climate justice, particularly for indigenous populations whose livelihoods and traditional practices are heavily impacted by climate change. They are facing numerous challenges, including environmental disruptions, health vulnerabilities, economic hardship, and cultural erosion, all exacerbated by biodiversity loss. Researchers like Dr. Hart have a responsibility to focus on solutions that genuinely address the needs of communities impacted by climate change, yet they have failed to engage with these communities, understand the problem from their perspective, and involve them in crafting solutions. In this case, Dr. Hart's team could do better by promoting knowledge sharing, by working with the community to protect and restore biodiversity. Instead of just extracting data, they could have contributed to a resource or knowledge that benefit the community, such as supporting local conservation efforts. So what could have been done better? We could empower Indigenous voice in climate solutions by creating relationships that recognize Indigenous knowledge as equally vital as scientific understanding. This equilibrium could inform biodiversity conversation, ecological management, and health treatments, and we could prioritize the immediate needs over focusing solely on academically driven outcomes. Dr. Hart's team, though motivated by scientific goals, overlooked the spiritual, cultural, and immediate needs of these Indigenous community by failing to engage with them in a meaningful and respectful manner. Moving forward, we must ensure that Indigenous knowledge and experiences is respected and fairly compensated, while also supporting them in climate-led solutions. In conclusion, this case underscores the profound ethical challenges at the intersection of climate change, Indigenous rights, and health research. It highlights the importance of ensuring that research not only addresses the pressing issue of climate change, but also upholds climate justice by empowering local communities, recognizing their knowledge and experiences, fostering partnerships that benefits all parties. Moving forward, we must prioritize equitable knowledge sharing and commit to research practice that empower Indigenous communities rather than exploiting them, ensuring they receive both the respect and resources necessary to build resilience in the face of climate change. I would like to acknowledge my colleague in preparation of this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Our last presenter, are you ready? Thank you. Brenda Odiro, I hope I pronounced your name correctly, from the University of KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa, and Southmore University, Kenya.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. My name is Brenda Athiambo Odero, and my study highlights the ethical dimensions of the use of a multi-tier framework in energy use. Specifically, our case study looks at modern energy access. But why consider ethics in such a study to begin with? Why modern energy and why ethics? When carrying out research, researchers go to the ground and try to transition local communities from using traditional methods of cooking to modern methods of cooking. However, some ethical concerns come about, like justice, equity, community participation, and research participation. You need to remember that annually, 4 million people die prematurely because of using traditional cooking methods. This includes firewood, charcoal, because of respiratory diseases that occur in specifically women who are the primary users of these traditional cooking methods. What is MTF? MTF stands for a multi-tier framework, and it's mostly used for research and policy. But for this case study, we'll focus on the research part of things. The MTF, specifically for this case study, focuses on the access of health impacts. So it has different tiers, 6 to be specific. So it looks at convenience, availability, the reduction of emissions for carbon. It looks at availability. So very practical things are tiers when researchers are using it. Njeri is an example of a participant that we're going to use in this case study. When transitioning from traditional cooking methods to modern cooking methods, Njeri is happy because she's now not using charcoal and firewood. She is now using modern cooking methods like solar power and pressure cooking. So Njeri has a reduction of her health because now she doesn't have respiratory diseases, etc. However, the MTF initiative, or rather the MTF framework, does not allow Njeri to speak to researchers, and she does not have the power to decide what kind of intervention is used on the ground. When it comes to intergenerational and intragenerational justice, Njeri, when the researchers go on the ground, Njeri does not have the opportunity to actually know if these interventions are going to be used over and over, and what is the social and economic impact of using these modern cooking methods. The MTF framework obviously addresses historical injustices, but forgets that Njeri does not have the say and power when an intervention is given to them. Remember, these local communities are desperate for these solutions. When it comes to epistemic justice and participation, there needs to be some form of co-creation using the MTF framework, which is very rare when interventions are being given to local communities. Environment and sustainability. Researchers come with these technologies not clearly stating if the carbon footprint that they have when bringing these technologies have been reduced and to what extent. So the MTF initiative does not really count for this in the whole research project. When it comes to the One Health approach, as addressed by the keynote speaker earlier, it's very important to note that the non-human part of the study is rarely incorporated in some of these research studies on the ground using the MTF framework. Climate justice and research challenges. When researchers come to the ground and use this MTF, the framework in question, it's very rare for them to speak to Njeri, who's one participant, in benefit sharing. How will they share? When they get the intervention, will there be cost sharing throughout the use of these technologies? Will they leave the technologies on the ground? Will they go with them, leaving the local communities dependent on the technologies? Policy implications. Remember that I said earlier, the MTF is used for both research and policy. But for this purpose, we'll focus on research and the policy implications of it. So, for recommendations and conclusions, we would like the MTF to incorporate gender equity into the study when using the MTF framework, community participation as well. So it's good for co-creation between the researchers and the participants. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Okay, can I ask the presenters to stand up again? Just stand up wherever you are. Okay, can we have another round of applause again? If you have questions, okay, you can approach them during the break, or they'll be here anyway. So if you have any questions to their presentation, do ask them in your own time. And that brings us to the end of the first Pecha Kucha, your first adrenaline rush. for morning tea.